Hello, my name is Crystal Petrie, and welcome to another episode of my podcast, 60 Minutes With. Today, we're learning all about government contracting, something I know probably nothing about. But I'm so glad that Shamarcus Nimmer is in my life because he's going to educate me and you about government contracts and how you can actually make money and make a living of government contracts. So, Shamarcus, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. First, I always have to give honor and praises, and I always try to give people their flowers when they are here. Thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for just clearing a pathway. We all know that somebody had to clear the pathway in order for us to get wherever it is we are. So I just want to always give people their roses, especially when they're doing a good job. And you and I both talked before this, and we've talked a couple times,
Yes.
and you are doing what's needed to be done. So let me first say that I always got to say that to the people that really are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. I did not know you was gonna say that.
I know you did.
Oh, oh my goodness. I'm so, and I seriously mean it. And I promise my audience, my listeners, we're going to get into this podcast so you guys can start learning. But I am so glad you're in my life. Like, I really legit am so glad you're in my life. I really, really am. Okay. So, where are you, Shamarcus? Where in the world are you?
In the world, I'm in the real. No, I'm joking. I'm in Houston, Texas. Richmond, actually, to be exact. I'm actually in Richmond, Texas, small town, suburbs of Houston.
Mhm.
Um, country, raised in Arkansas, born and bred, small country town boy that just like doing all the good country stuff.
Absolutely. And we love you for it. We love you for it. Okay, so obviously, Shamarcus, my very first question is what is a government contract?
So a government contract is I'll break it down because I try to because I get a couple people who don't know what government contracts are, and also I get people who think that government contracts are just for the big people, right? All it is whether you're state, you're federal, which is whatever federal, state, local, or just municipalities, right? They want something and they can't go buy it themselves. So what they do is, hey, I'm gonna put this flyer out there and see who can go get me this light bulb, right? Because I the main focus we do and the main focus I teach is products, right? So there's two different well actually three different government contracting sectors is your products, which are your everyday things, light bulbs, computers, desks, everything that's in your house right now, the government buys everything. Um, and then you have your services side. That's when like you cleaning or janitorial or AI training or any of those things. That's the most. There are more of your services, and then you have your construction. Right, your construction is just that construction. Anything that's being built, whether it's houses, planes, roads, all of these things. So that's the gist of it. I try not to go into great detail because
Mhm.
then it'd be like, which way did he go? What happened?
Yeah. So, what is the difference between a government contract and a private sector contract?
Okay, so your private sectors are more of your person to person or business to business, right? Your government consists of you have your federal level, which is the top level, right? You have your state level, which is the next, which is the state, whatever state you're in, which is Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, whatever. Then you have your local level, which is your city or municipality. Here in Texas, you have local, then you have counties, you have your uh, school districts, you have your port authorities, you have metro. All of these people they actually get government funding have to go by a certain set of rules in order to whenever they do get that money in and however they do issue it out and things of that nature.
Oh,
Hope
okay.
that wasn't too.
No, no, no. That was perfect. Which I mean, I thought of another question.
Yeah.
How does how does a company? Well, it's two questions.
Hmm.
How does a company apply to receive government contracts? Like, what is that pathway?
Hmm.
And how do I know if I qualify
Okay.
to receive government contracts?
Right. Great question. Great question. The first thing is I always tell people, whether it's a client or somebody that I'm talking to on the streets, because like I said, a lot of people that look like us typically don't talk about government contracting, right?
Mhm. Right.
So the thing is, you want to first start off with your federal level. When I say your federal level, what is federal? That's your sam.gov, right? So whenever you do go into sam.gov, you'll be able to register your business. You have to have a business. I, you hold on. You have to have a business. I suggest it's an LLC. You can get government contracts with a DBA, which is a doing business as sole proprietorship, things of that nature. But I always suggest that you get your LLC. Why? Because LLC means limited liability company. So if anything was to go haywire or anything like that, not saying that it was, but you want to make sure that you have as less things coming to you personally as possible. So I always tell people, get your LLC. Right now, the government only can do business with a business. Typically, don't do business with Joe Smo. Right, so they want to make sure that you're a legitimate business, things of that nature. As long as all of your paperwork is all separate out and everything is good, you should be able to register for sam.gov. Once you're in sam.gov, then you'll get what's called a UEI, which is your unique identifying number, and then you'll have a cage code, which is those are things that you need in order to start looking at. I mean, to start getting your government contracts, because most of the people, whenever you register, they're going to ask you, what's your UEI, what's your cage code, what's your business address, all of these things. So, in order to get you one, have a business and register for SAM. I always tell people register for SAM first because that's your federal. You want to work your way from the top of the ladder on down, right?
Okay.
You want to go for first. You want to go for SAM.gov because that's your top of the top. Then you want to register for your state, whatever state you're in. Say, for instance, you're in Texas. Texas is Texas Smart Buy, as far as the Texas part. But you can Google my Texas. You can Google my state and bids, right? Or procurement is what they're calling it, is what they call it, either bids or procurement, both the same thing. Then you'll go to your federal, I mean your local, federal, state. Then you want to go to your local, which is city of Houston, which where you stay. I always go to the big cities, which are next closer to me, like San Antonio, Dallas, um, Corpus Christi, all of your Austin, all of your big cities. You want to go to your big cities and register for that also. Typically, I'll tell people to get them a notepad. I mean, not a notepad, but a sheet where they can a Word document, so you can keep all of your stuff intact, right? Because what you're going to find out is whenever you start going into this life and whenever you start going into these things, is they're going to ask you typically the same thing. Right? What's your UEI? It's easy to copy and paste. What's your
Oh,
case
okay.
code? Right there. What's your phone number? Right there. What's your DUNS number? Some people ask for your DUNS number. Your duns is all of these. Most of these things you can get for free. It's some other stuff, but you gotta really want to do it and know where to find it and things of that nature. But if you want to get started, that's the easiest way to get started. Once you start registering and you start putting your next code, which is like what how they define you, right? So if you're looking for, we'll say, chairs, right, and that's under office supplies. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll be under office supplies, under chairs, anything under office supplies. They send out bids, they send out solicitations with whenever it is that you or it's under you, if that makes any sense. Like say for instance, they want office chairs and they want 1,000 of them. The good thing about the government is they don't want one or two office shares. What are they going to do with that? Nothing. They want thousands or hundreds or something like that. So typically, they set out whenever it is anything over a certain dollar amount, they have to put it out to the public. And as long as you're in that realm, and as long as you have all of those things, then they'll send you an email. Hey, this is what we need. Blah blah blah. I hope I didn't go too deep.
No, no, that was perfect. I think I already know the answer to this question, but I'm still going to ask it. What are the benefits of securing and working with government contracts?
I'm gonna give you a real quick one and real easy one. You know how
Okay.
when you go to, we'll say, a friend of the family, right?
Yes.
And they want you to do something.
Yes.
and they say, "Hey, I need you to do this," and 9 times out of 10, they're gonna want it right now because they waited till the last minute to do it, whatever
Mm-hmm.
the whole case may be. But the thing is, they're gonna want you to do something, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna do whatever it is. You got it, you did all the stuff, and now when it's time to pay, they're gonna be like, "Well, so and so said they were gonna do it to me for $40, and you charging 60, right? I only got $40, so I'm gonna give you $40." No, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So with the government, what happens, what typically happens, because I the main thing we teach and we focus on is products, right? So the government may say, "Hey, I want 100 of whatever this is," right? The government is going to pay. Sometimes they can be slow to pay.
Okay.
Sometimes they don't have to be slow to pay. But the government, and this is a lot of things that a lot of people aren't talking about, is the government can take anywhere from 30 to 60 to sometimes even 90 days to pay you, right?
Okay.
But they will pay you. That's the difference. That's one of the biggest things. They will pay you, right? It might take a little while, but also whenever you start getting in with government entities and government agencies, right? They're always wanting things, right? There's so many bids that come out day, every day, whether you're in wherever it is you are in the state or in the United States, there's always bids coming out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it's more of, okay, now you're doing business with the government. It's something totally different than doing business with Joe Smo over here.
Right. Right.
And guess what? They're going to pay. The government makes money. This is what they do. They make money,
Do you
literally.
think someone could make a living, like this could be their full-time job doing government contracts?
Absolutely. I'll give you an example. So say for instance, and I'll give just broad stuff because I try not to go into great detail. So
Okay.
the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, which is our prison system here in Texas, right? They put a bid out for potato chips.
What?
They wanted 10, I want to say when I put the bid in, I think it was like 10,000 bags of potato chips or something like that. Potato
Wow.
they had a bid. As a matter of fact, not long ago, I saw in Dallas they had a bid out for flags. The American flag, I
Yes.
bid out for that. If you think about it, and I always break this down whenever I'm talking to somebody to give them a more understanding of what government contracting is.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people the same thing. I say, close your eyes, right? They close their eyes, and then I was like, have you ever went to a courthouse? 9 times out of 10, everybody's had at least one ticket, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
went to a courthouse, right? You went to a courthouse for something. It didn't have to be tickets, but you went to a courthouse, right? So I always tell them, whenever you're going up to the courthouse, 9 times out of 10, you have this big old glass. 9 times out of 10, it's the glass doors and stuff like that. And I tell them, the people that's cleaning those glass doors, that's a service, right? They pay somebody. I need you to clean these glasses, make sure it looks pretty for all the little people to come in, right? Whenever you walk in, the first thing, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna go through what? A metal detector,
Yes.
right? So for this metal detector, it might say property of this courthouse, but that courthouse did not make that metal detector. Somebody else made it. So they had to get a contract, get a solicitation in order to get that brought in, right? Now, after you've gotten through these metal detectors, right, if you look to the right and to the left, you see guards or security officers or
Right.
constables. That's a service, right? That's a service. The next thing, oh my God, I gotta use the restroom. So when you run to the restroom, you know that thing that's whoosh after you get through washing your hands?
Yeah. The
That can say
dryer.
the dryer, right? I always say and then everybody
Yeah.
understands. But it can say property of this courthouse, but the courthouse did not make that. They had to get that in, right? Whenever
Yes.
you're going, the TV monitors, they didn't make those. the the uh the ink, they didn't make that. The paper that you got the ticket off of, they
Mm-hmm.
didn't make that. All of that had to be somehow gotten in, right? So they put solicitations or bids or whatever procurement, they put those out there. Hey, I need this or I need that. I even take you the benches that you sit on whenever
Mm-hmm.
you go to the courthouse. It can say property of this courthouse, but guess what? The courthouse did not make that. So everything that's in that courthouse, if you think about it, That's government contracting. The trash cans, the trash bags. They didn't make them, but they got to get them in. But the person that cleans it up, that's a service. So I hope I broke it down to you good enough.
Yes. You stated that you put in a bid for 10,000 bags of chips.
Yeah.
So I know you don't have 10,000 bags of chips laying around your house or your office, I'm assuming. So if I'm a business and I'm putting in a bid for 10,000 bags of chips or 1,000 office chairs, which was your example earlier, where am I getting this stuff from? I can't go on Amazon or Walmart.com and get this stuff.
You you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to. So
Okay.
typically, what I tell people is 9 times out of 10, if you look at that bid or that solicitation, it's going to tell you what they want, right? Because they want you to get it right. They don't want you to get it wrong. So typically, what I do is I'll reach out to whoever that manufacturer is. In that case, uh, who was it? Oh my God, it wasn't Lay's. It was Herman's or something like that. Chips. I forgot what's the name of them. So I actually reached out to them and then talk to them we have a breakdown of what to ask your uh your people who, I mean, not your people, we have a breakdown of what to ask your potential client. Also, we have breakdowns of what to ask your the contracting officer. If you have, because there's a questionnaire phase that you can ask all the questions you want, right? I have people, oh my God, I don't know what this means. Okay, well, ask the question. Right. Most of the times people don't get stuff right because they don't ask the right questions. You ask the right
Right.
questions, you get the right answers. Right. So in that case, I don't have 10,000, I have no supplies. I can show you around, no supplies. Right. But we get out, we reach out to other people who have it. Right. If I wanted somebody with a podcast, I'm gonna reach out to somebody with a podcast.
Right,
If I
right.
wanted, if I want somebody with some books, I'm gonna reach out to somebody who got books.
So
Hey,
you go straight to the
oh
manufacturer
man, I go straight to the
and
source.
create a partnership with them to secure the supplies or the products that they're asking for.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes
Why,
sense.
why go anywhere else? That,
That makes sense. That makes sense.
yeah.
So what are the risks with doing business with government contracts? Are there any?
There, the risks are mainly whenever it is you don't get stuff right. If I'm just being honest with you, those are the main risks is when you don't get stuff right. But for the most part, there's not too big of a risk, right? Because they want this stuff. They have paperwork. Hey, I want. Like I saw for MacBooks. Now, some like whenever you start getting deep into it, then you'll find out this is that, whatever the whole case might be. But say for instance, let me see. City of the we'll go to Dallas because Dallas lately has been a whole bunch of bids, right? So they wanted work boots, right? Work boots, just regular rubber work boots.
Yeah.
You reach out to whoever it is that make those work boots. You try to get the best price you can, and then boom, you send it to them, and you send it to the government. And if that's the winning bid, then you'll get awarded. If it's not, then we always ask other questions, right? Because the
Mm.
thing is, you want to make sure you ask all of the right questions. That's the thing.
When you're working with the manufacturer, do you have to pay up front or will they wait until you are awarded your government contract to pay?
That's a great question. So typically, it all depends on who the manufacturer is.
Mhm.
I actually partner with a company who does PO financing, which is purchase order financing. Once you get that purchase order, then you can go to this company that I partner with, and they'll be able, as long as your margins are good and all this other stuff, then they'll be able to help you finance that whole contract, and you don't have to come out of pocket whatever that is. And I always let my clients know, I'm like, okay, so getting the bid, okay, that's fine. But what's going to happen after you get the bid? If you get $100,000 bid right now, what you going to do? Go put up your house? No, you're going to reach
Right.
out. You're going to reach out to a PO financing company, which there's a couple, but I only suggest one because I actually know the people, and I actually that's who I go through with all my stuff as well. But the thing is, with that being said, you don't want to come out of pocket. How about you use some of the margin that you already have? You pay them to use their money, and like I said earlier, the government can take 30 to 60 to sometimes even 90 days to pay, right? if you get two good contracts, even if you have a lot of money saved up, you're gonna run through that, and you don't want to run through your liquid
Right.
doing that. I always tell people, which have my mentors told me, if you're gonna buy on credit, you want to sell on credit as well.
Mm, that makes sense. So, how, okay,
Yeah,
Shamarcus,
yeah.
tell me, how did you get into government contracting? How long have you been doing this?
So it's funny because the mentor that I have now actually brought me into it deeply, right? So when I first got started, maybe 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, I can't even believe it's been that long. So 4 or 5 years ago, I want to say somewhere off in there, I saw somebody doing it, and they made it seem like it was so easy to do, right? And come to find out, it was not that easy. It was not. They made it seem like, oh yeah, you just need to do this and bada bing, bada boom, and then bam, bada
Right.
da da. And then it was like that didn't help, right? And then the at that point, I was like, okay, well, I want to reach out to the person, and he told me how much his class was. I'm like, cuz I can't pay you that. Like that's he wanted. I want to say it was like 20 bands for his class.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, nah, I can't even do all that. So I started going to YouTube University, and found out that, and I'll tell people, anybody that come to me, I always tell them, whoever you listen to that person, right? If it's me, if it's someone else, even if it's not me, I need for you to listen to whoever it is you're listening to, because you can't ask me how to do something somebody else told you,
Right, right.
right? And I let people know, whoever it is you listen to that person all the way, right? Until you stop listening to them, because that's going to be more confusing. You can't come ask me how to do something somebody else told you, because I'm like, bro, I don't know. They told you
Mhm.
go left, well, then go left. What you want me to do? I know how to do what I'm telling you to do, and I know
Right.
how to lead you through the way I'm telling you to lead you. So I always tell people to do that, because shameless, I used to do that. I'll go to YouTube University and ask all these questions that I listen to 32 different people, and they all tell me to go to some different that.
And you be so confused at the end
Yeah,
of the day.
then you like, bruh. So then when I met my mentor, it's so funny. The way I met my mentor is I was trying to sell him something else, right? This is when I was doing some other stuff. So I was talking to him, and he was just listening, and he was attentive and everything. He's like, we're gonna make some money together. I was like, all right, so you gonna buy this stuff or what? Like,
Yeah.
you know, but we talked, and he showed me the real way of doing things, right? He showed me how to get my business address instead of using home addresses. He showed me how to get my certifications, and it was all of these things. So granted, it wasn't cheap, but it was everything that I needed. Right, it was the right way to look at things. Like, he asked me, he was like, "Well, whoever you're listening to, do they have a pricing strategy?" Like, what do you mean pricing strategy? That's why you losing. All
Mm,
right, so you just can't throw it all on the wall and hope it sticks. I mean, you can get lucky with it a couple times, but for the most part, how do you know how much they are going to pay? They're willing to pay, because the government knows about how much they want to pay for stuff, right? Because
right.
nine times out
Yeah.
of ten,
And
it's
they've
not.
been doing it for so long. Yeah.
They know how much they want to spend for toilet tissue, right? Nine times out of ten, it's there might be a couple percentages off, or either over or short, but they know how much it is. They've bought toilet tissue, and I
Mhm.
say, if the government has never bought it, I don't want to sell it to them first, because now I don't even know if I'm underselling or overselling it. I
Mhm.
don't want to do it. I want to sell you some stuff you've already bought before. Now I know roughly what target margins I want. I want this or that, and I know how to go to the distributors. I know how to go to the manufacturers. Like all of these things, like we it's just data, right?
Yeah.
They know how much they want to spend, so you don't want to just. And I'm sorry that was a long-winded question, long-winded answer, but I'm hoping that that made sense.
Are you coaching and mentoring people who are interested in government contracts, or maybe they just want to ask you some questions about it?
Yeah, yeah, I help people. As a matter of fact, you can go to my website. You can actually schedule time for me to sit down and talk. I always ask, the basic questions.
Mhm.
But Yeah, I help anybody that wants to be helped. But the thing is, you want is work. I'm not gonna sit up here and say, "Hey, bro, you just gonna sit back and make all of the money." No, I'm not gonna tell you that. It's gonna be some work. You don't have to reach out to people. You're gonna have to call. You're gonna have to somewhat get out of whatever it is comfort zone you're in. Because typically, the only thing that be holding us back is just us, right?
Right. What's
And
your email?
my email is info@nimmerconsulting.com.
Okay.
That's my email. You can reach out to me email. You can go to nimmerconsulting.com. That's my website. Just book a time with me, right? We can talk about anything. I'll give anybody a free 15-minute consultation just to get you on the right track. Say for instance you don't have the money right then. That's fine, right? That's great, but I want you to get started because Texas alone, we'll say last year. Yes, last year Texas alone had, I want to say, was it $5 billion budget? I want to say somewhere off in there. Don't I got to remember the numbers, but had a $5 billion budget. So typically they set aside, which is called set aside. They set aside a certain amount of money. That's, I want to say 10 to 20% of that. That's supposed to go minority owned, women owned, veteran owned, small business, all
Mhm.
of these things. They have what's called set asides. They didn't meet they set asides for products. Why? Not because they didn't put it out there, because it's all out there. It's because we don't know about it. People that are fit those demographics really don't know about it. Don't know how to get started with it. Don't know one that is even there, right? So I always tell people just get started. Like even if you don't listen to me, get started. Do some stuff, right? Because at one point in time it's gonna click and you're gonna find out, yes, I really need a mentor, whoever that is. I really need somebody that's going to help me through this process. But after you go through that tunnel, you're gonna see the light and you're gonna be like, oh my God, this is real. Like this, you can make some real money like this. Like typically, and you can look at bids, they tell you how much they're gonna spend for certain stuff, right? Like construction. We'll just say the construction part. The construction, they tell you exactly how much they're going to spend for any project.
Wow. So
Yeah,
really they take the guessing work out of it for you.
yeah. For the most part, they'll take to get some work out. I mean, there's for the construction side. I always use construction because construction is very big. When was the last time you seen a road being finished? Prime example. And if you're in construction, then hey, by all means, you're supposed to be going to go be like, bruh, put in this
Yeah.
bid. But just in general, right? And I tell people, like everything that you look in your house right now, I don't care where you are, the government buys it, whether it's federal, state, local, municipality, school districts. Like I put in a bid for calculators. The school district wanted like 150 calculators,
Mhm.
right? And then whenever you start going deeper, you're going to find other stuff. But like calculators, paper, I think I put in a bid for they wanted 3 years of paper. I want to say like how many was that? That was what 200 cases or something like that. It was a crazy number. It was like 2 truckloads
Are
basically.
you getting these bids? I mean, I wouldn't assume you're getting all of them.
No,
Maybe
I,
you are, but are you getting the bids?
I'm not gonna lie here and say, yeah, I'm getting every bid I put in. No, not at all. Because there's other people that want the same amount of stuff that you want, right?
Mhm.
It's more of a numbers game for me, right? Because say for instance, we'll say 3 hours, right? Typically, whenever you get it down, you don't have to spend that long, stuff like that. But say for instance, you spend 3 to 6 hours, right? 3 hours to find a bid and get you a distributor for that, right? You spend another couple of hours putting together and looking at the solicitation, making sure all of this is this and all of that is that and blah blah blah.
Making
And
sure
the
you
thing,
qualify.
yeah, make sure you
Yeah.
qualify and things like that, and then you pull in that bid, right? The good news is that's not the only time they're gonna want that. Nor is that the only company or government agency that's gonna want that. Think about it.
Mhm.
There's 50 different states. We'll just say coffee. We'll just say coffee. Random stuff like coffee. There's 50 different states, right? How many of those states you think buy coffee?
Every one of them.
There you go.
Yeah.
You just
Why
got to
would
find it.
somebody want to why do you think someone would want to get into the government contracting business?
The main thing is to I ain't even gonna say make money because I don't even want you. I don't want to hear sit up here and say you're gonna make millions and millions of dollars. Can it happen? Yes. Will it take some time? Yes. But the thing is, it's more of doing something that a lot of people aren't doing, and learning the skill that a lot of people aren't
Mm,
learning. Right.
yes.
I just told you earlier that Texas didn't make their numbers. Right.
Hmm.
Guess how many other states didn't make their numbers either?
Right.
It's
Yes.
50 cents. Like I saw a bid. This is no lie, and because the thing is, I'm looking at bids all day because this is what I do. This I want to find more bids. Like I have to put in a lot of bids in order to win one, but that one I win, I make sure that my margins are good. So I make sure that everything
When
is
you
good.
say margins, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so your margins, and this is I typically don't go this deep, but since it's you, I got you.
Thank you.
So typically, say for instance, you buy something for $1, right?
Mhm.
You buy something for $1. You want to sell it for how much? You want to make some type of profit on that, whatever it is you bought, whether it's one or two, right? You
Yeah.
put your margins is how much you bought it for, right? Say for instance, you
For
bought
one
$1.
dollar.
So you have to ship that. If you have to ship it, how much is your shipping? We'll say 50 cent. And we're
Mhm.
just using round numbers just so you can,
Right.
right?
We're not trying to do math on here.
We're not. No, no. We have a formula though. We have a formula
Okay.
that we follow that gets you close to where you need to be. So,
Okay.
say for instance, okay, so now it's $1. You bought the we'll say a phone.
Hmm.
Bought the phone for $1, right? It's going to take you 50 cents to ship this phone to whatever government agency, right? So that's
Hmm.
$1.50 right there without any profit margin, without anything. Your base pay will be 150. I mean, 100 $1.50 for this phone. That's to
Hmm.
get the phone. That's to ship the phone, right? So the thing is, you have to make a profit after that. Those are going to be your margins, right? I typically look for anywhere from 15 to 20% markup on anything. So the reason why I do that is because a couple of things, right? One is if I don't want to come out of my pocket, I know I have to pay somebody else to come out of their pocket.
Right.
So I'm gonna add that in. Say for instance, that's 6%. Whatever. I don't know. I don't know the numbers because we don't. We're just doing a round
Right.
number
Right.
thing. So say for instance, that's 5%, right? They want 5% of that $1.50 thing. So now, if I put in my margins at 20%, now I have 15% markup for myself,
Okay. I see what I see. I see. I
right?
see.
So
Yeah.
instead of that's just the basic. We're not going into great detail.
Hmm.
We can, but that's later. But yeah, just like that. So that's your markup, right? That's your profit margin. So that's your margin of profit that you're going to take home.
Okay. Okay. What is the difference between fixed price contracts and cost reimbursement contracts?
So typically, the fixed price is a price that, say for instance, they want. So those are most of the fixed prices are for services and for like contracts. I mean, not contract construction and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
they have fixed price, meaning that they're not going to go over whatever this price is, right? So, and then you said what was the other one? Fixed price and what?
Oh, cost reimbursement.
So cost reimbursement is again, those are mainly things for services. Say for instance, and if you think about it, it's the same thing as far as products as well. It's like you go and get me the stuff, and I reimburse you for that.
So you have to have your own money.
Yes, you have to have your own money. Well,
Okay.
technically, or what we talked about
Bridge
earlier,
financing.
you get your PO financing people involved. Because
Now,
no matter what product, no matter what service, no matter anything, the government says, and this is you can go look it up.
mhm,
I need this. I want you to give me this. You wait, and I'll pay you. So that's the thing that we just talked about, right? That's
right.
technically reimbursement, right? But any government, whether it's unless the only thing, and this is going a little more technical, unless it's on a P card, which is a purchase order card, and that's anything I want to say anything under 10,000 is a purchase order. Like say for instance, if it's something that's $1.50, they're not going to put a whole contract out for $1.50,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
But if it's over a certain dollar amount, by law, they have to put it out to the public. Who the public? Everybody's looking for bids, right?
right.
So they put those out, and then hey, bring it to me. Break to me whatever it is that you say.
The
Say,
fixed cost, is that where they give you, if is that where they say, hey, we're going to spend $10,000 on this, nothing higher, nothing lower,
yeah,
you just get that
yeah,
one cost?
yeah.
Okay.
Typically, that's more of the like what I said, the construction part.
Mhm.
Construction is like they have those. Like you'll see how much they're gonna spend um, for road closures or for making these concrete slabs or whatever the whole case. They let you, hey, this is the price, and then other stuff comes into play whenever you're looking at stuff like that, though.
Okay. Okay. How do multiple award contracts work? I'm assuming, no, go ahead and explain it. Explain it. Explain. That's why I have you here. You're the expert, not me.
So typically when multiple awards come out, typically, and this is not set in stone, but say for instance, a school district, we'll just say a school district, right? So they
Mhm.
get government funding, so they have to abide by certain laws as well. So say for instance, they have a big budget for, we'll say, toilet tissue, we'll just say supplies in general,
Mhm.
right? So, say for instance, I can get the toilet tissue cheaper than anybody else, right? And they'll say, okay, we want you to get the toilet tissue, we want you to get the Lysol and disinfectant, and we want you to get the paper towel, not even
Now
paper
we
towel.
talk about different people here.
Yeah, different. That's why it says multiple awards.
Okay.
So multiple, that means there's more than one person that actually won that award. But sometimes even
Hey.
whenever you look at that, sometimes whenever they do the multiple awards, 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, okay, so we want this from you, this from you, this from you. So whenever it's time to bid, we'll go for you for this, and you for this, and you for this. If that makes any sense.
Yes, 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 yes. Earlier, you said that government contracts, once they get to a certain number, they have to put a bid out for it. Do
Mhm.
you know what that number is, or does it vary by state and by city?
Typically, it does vary, but for the most part, anything over 10,000, they'll put it out to bid to the
Uh-huh.
public. Anything up to 10,000. Because if you think about it, your P card, which is the government agencies have P cards, which is purchase order cards, right?
Mhm.
So anything under that 10,000, I don't know how that works, but anything under that 10,000, they can probably go buy. But anything over that, they have to show like the receipt. And I'm not the receipt, but they got to show like, hey, it's more than one person bidding. This is this, and that.
I feel like that's fair.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like
I
that's
mean,
fair. Yeah, I
yeah.
feel like everybody need to eat.
Everybody need to eat. Everybody
Everybody
needs to
need
eat.
to eat. Everybody need to eat. Okay, what is an RF? I mean, yeah, an RFP, request for proposal.
RFP is a request for proposal. So that means that's more of the service side as well, right? So say for instance, you want to clean these windows, right?
Mhm.
They're gonna put out the bid, and then they're gonna be like, okay, so now we need your RFP, request for proposal. So this is gonna tell you how much you gonna spend for that. I mean, how much you gonna charge us for that, how many people, how many hours, all this other stuff. And it's just that's typically what that stands for.
Okay. Now, of course, you can't like go completely in on this,
Uh-huh.
but if I am wanting, or if a business is wanting to submit for the RFP, the request for proposal, what are some must have things that you need in your application? And what are some things that you need to leave out of your application?
I will say, and this is probably going to all RFPs are not made the same. Period.
Okay.
Start off there. But the thing is, I would say, what you won't read,
Mhm,
read, READ. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm saying it in a funny and joking nature.
mhm,
However, like everything that you want to know is in that RFP, right? Now, if it's a little tricky, you're not understanding it, that's when you start asking questions. But for
mhm,
the most part, they're going to tell you, okay, so you can't have a subcontractor do more than 80% of the work, right? Or we don't you can't go anytime after 5 to clean this, or all of those things will be in that proposal, right? That's why
mhm.
most proposals are a whole. I've seen a proposal like 120 pages.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's like it's a lot. Right? I remember when I first started, I was looking at at what was it? It was doing sand, not sand, snow removal that was in Colorado or something, right? And this is when I first started. I didn't know nothing. I was just looking at bids. So come to find out, if I would have took that job, I would have actually been in trouble because in the RFPs it says that you cannot sub out more than, I want to say, 40% of that job or
Hmm.
something like that. So I'm in Texas. I'm not up there. So
Right.
if I would have got that, then that would have been, and they would have did the investigation and all this other stuff, because like you can ask questions, right? Who won
Mhm.
it? Why did they win it? Blah blah blah, stuff like that,
Right.
right? Like there's a whole bunch of stuff you it's and then um just know that I'm trying to make sure I word stuff right. You can look up. I think I seen a couple in Texas, a couple in Houston too. Um, and there are people that gave bids to people that they know
Hmm.
and got in trouble for that.
I feel like that's illegal.
That is very illegal.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so they like it's some questionnaires that they ask. Do you know this person? And blah 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 and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But it's a woman. I want to say she's on the way to jail or went to jail for doing just that, and she was up there in the procurement space. She was up there, and she would give bids, and then she would get a kickback on those bids as well.
Yes. Yeah.
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 So just, and I tell people, just make sure that you're doing everything I can't even ethnically
Yes.
correct as
Hmm.
well, because like there's some stuff that can hit you.
So, what would you say are like one or two things that I absolutely have to have on my application?
As far as your bid,
Yeah.
or
Like
so.
if I'm writing my application or my proposal
Uh huh.
for an RFP,
Uh huh.
what is, and this is a broad question,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah.
What is like the main thing, one of the main things that I have to have on there? Would it be
You
like
gotta
my
have a.
phone number or what? What
Oh
would be?
yeah, like all of that. That
Definitely
they'll
the
tell you.
contact. I mean,
Your contact
every
information,
contact.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
you want to have pricing, right? You want
Price.
to have um you want to have pricing that's compatible for everybody,
Okay.
right? You want to make sure you're in the middle. You don't want to be over, you don't want to be under,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you want competitive pricing. You also want to make sure that all of your stuff is up to date, like your phone numbers, your addresses, all of this email, stuff like that. And you want to have contact persons and stuff like that, because sometimes they can call and reach out. Hey, you didn't have this on your something. You're probably going to win it. Blah blah blah. I don't think they do it that much like that. They typically they let you, hey, is this your next code?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, well, we're our next code that we are looking for is this, stuff like that.
Right. And what is one or two things that you should never put on your application or your proposal?
I'm gonna be funny, but I'm gonna say whatever it is they tell you not to put on there, because they're gonna tell you they're gonna like they. Like the best thing about this is they tell you everything on these
Okay.
proposals, right? Um, I'll give you an example. The Texas Department of Criminal Justice, right? I love going through theirs because it's so easy. And again, where I'm only focusing on products. I'm not focusing on services or construction. But on there, it's so easy to read. They tell you who to contact. They tell you when the bid is due, which is something you really want to pay attention to, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to do all this work and the bid is due in 2 days, and you like, nope, that one not gone. Right?
Right.
You want to have applicable amount of time in order to get all the things completed that you need. They tell you when the bid is due, what time is due. Anything after that, they're gonna cut it off. You ain't even gonna get prop. Just hey, just
Yeah.
gonna get that one up. They also tell you what products they want. They typically tell you the manufacturer, whoever those products are. They tell you how many they want. They don't say, "Hey, I want 10 to 12." No, we want
Mhm.
12. We want 15. They tell you all of these things in the bid process, in the package. So they're going to tell you everything that you want. And typically they say, don't do this, don't do that. Right? Sometimes they tell you only submit email. Right? They
Mm,
don't want it.
yes.
stuff like that. Like they'll
Yeah.
be in the package how they wanted to do it, how they wanted to submit it. Some I've seen mail in only, right?
Yes. Yes.
People, a lot of people don't even want to do that because they don't even want to mail it in. I think I spent the last time I put a bid. I remember I spent like $30, all
Mhm.
because I waited till the last minute.
And that mail-in only is tricky because we're dealing with snail mail, first of all. And normally they want it by a certain day, and you
All
gotta
in the bid.
try and factor in how long it's gonna take for you to mail it in and for it to get there. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's but then if you think about it, the mail-in orders are typically the easiest to do because how many people that's gonna go, you know what? Let me go put this in the mail. Not many.
No one.
Not
Not a
many.
lot of people. I feel like I'd be out of there. If
Yeah,
they
see,
ask me for mail in,
see. As long as you have
I'm
all
like, why we can't email this? Why can we not email this?
but you have small towns that do that. You have some big towns that do that too. Just hey, email it in. It has to be in by this day. We have to receive it by this day.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I remember I had to spend. I want to say typically it should have cost me like $5. It charged me
Mhm.
like $30 because I was like I needed the day before because I
Right.
don't want no problems. I wanted that the
Yes.
day before. I want all this stuff. Like yeah.
Yes. Is it possible, and I'm sure it is, how can small businesses compete with large companies and large businesses when it comes to government contracting, whether that's on the federal, the local, or the state side?
So that's typically easy. They actually have set asides, right? So
Right.
that's when you start
Right.
looking to your set asides. Small business, then you have minority owned businesses, you have women owned businesses, you have service owned veteran businesses. You have all of these things that are actually set aside for those specific um I'm trying to think. Set aside for those specific things, people, not things, people,
Right.
right? And the thing is, as long as you have those certifications, you can actually submit to that bid, regardless of whatever it is.
Oh,
So that's the
okay.
easiest. That's one of the easiest way. Um, but once you start doing your research, you'll find out what a small business is. How much
Mhm.
does a small what's known as a small business in the government contracting space? Like anything, it all depends on what you're looking at. But sometimes they can say anything under 5 million is a small business.
That's small business.
Hey, again, it's again, that's when you start reading the rules. That's when you start knowing how to
Yes.
play the game, right?
Yes.
Most of all government agencies have a procurement manual, right? You want to
Mhm.
make yourself look into that.
Right.
You'll see what their thresholds are whenever it comes to sending out to public. You'll see all of this stuff. All of most of the stuff you want to know is in the procurement manual or in that actual bid.
How can a business avoid conflict of interest when working with the government? Do you just have to make sure
That's
you don't know anyone there?
it's a paper that they're gonna ask you. Do you know anybody?
Okay.
It's a conflict of interest paper. If I want to, most of them have that, right? Whenever it is that they are putting out bids, is you have to sign that and you have to agree to say that you don't your cousin ain't the person that's doing it,
Right.
stuff like that. But yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
you don't want that because like I said, it's a lady that's here in Texas that she's gone up that road just for that.
Man, that is crazy.
Yeah,
Like
and it's more than one too.
to think that they wouldn't catch you.
And that's the thing, like
To think they wouldn't catch you. Like the
people
government.
don't think about that in the moment, right?
Yeah.
There a lot of people don't think about that. But even that, like say for instance, you win the bid, right?
Mhm.
Somebody can ask, okay, she says she's woman owned, does she have a certificate? They can run, you
Mm.
supposed to have all of that. Boom.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole bunch of stuff you can ask,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
And then most of the companies do their investigations too,
Mhm.
right? They want to make sure this is that. Especially like so they have to set aside so much amount of money and all of this, whether it's hub certifications of all these other things. So whenever it is you say that, yeah, we're meeting these goals, they can randomly pull one of the bids and be like, okay, let's go look at it. Make sure that you're doing all these things.
Well, that leads me to my next question,
Mhm.
Shamarcus, and thank you so much for being on my podcast. Um, Managing the contracts, these are huge. From what I'm listening to and learning from you on this podcast, these are huge contracts. How do you manage that?
So typically, again, services and products they're the same, but they're different, right?
Mhm.
The managing part when it comes to the services, right? Say for instance, and I'll give you an example. Say for instance, you get a downtown building, a federal downtown building that you have to clean, right? We'll just use that. I always use cleaning because that's the easiest and everybody know that most of the ins and outs about that, right?
Okay.
So for that, you have to make sure that everybody's getting paid at a certain dollar amount, right? Because there's laws that say that they're supposed to be paid and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Also, managing that is okay. So, are they doing all the things that they say they're supposed to be doing? Are they cleaning on the days that they say they need to be cleaned? Are they using the certain disinfectants or all of these other stuff that they think? Those are the managing parts, right? For the services, for the products, the only thing you're managing is making sure that your product is at that specific place at that specific time, no thing, because they tell you and they ask you also what's an ARO. I think this was ARO. I have to look at it. I haven't looked at it with I haven't looked at it today, but
Mhm.
they typically say, okay, so what's your turnaround basically? When can you have this to me? When can you have
Yeah.
this on to me? Right? And then you
Yes.
put that in the bid as well. Some people will say some of the government will say, hey, this does determine a factor in you winning or losing this bid, saying that how
Mhm.
quick you can get this. Sometimes they need it quick, sometimes they don't. It all depends. And that's when you these four-letter words, READ. And they be like, wow. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
in the bid for the most part. Most of all of that stuff is in the bid.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, we have 8 more minutes, Shamarcus, on this podcast. You have this time is went by fast, like super duper fast. So, I have a couple more questions
Yeah.
for you. Well, 3 more questions for you. What is your intention in this space? What is your goal in this space of government contracting?
Typically my goal is to just help people get started, right? That's because if you think about it, once you get started with something, regardless of whatever it is, right, you're going
Yeah.
to get on a path that you want, right? Even if you say, you know what, I'm gonna start off with products, and then you end up in services, you
Mhm.
still started, right?
Right.
My thing is to just get you started because there's a lot of bids out here. There's a lot of people who don't know that this even exists. Or I had
Right.
somebody told me that, oh man, you gotta have millions and millions of dollars. I'm like, well, I ain't got millions and millions of dollars yet, but
Yeah.
I'm still doing it. You know what I mean? And what you're gonna find out is like it's out there, right? I can show you at least 50 bids right now. Easy, easy, easy. And that's just in Texas.
Okay. Where can I go and look? Can I just Google bids or Google government bids?
So, if you're just looking and you're not bidding or anything like that,
Right.
you can Google City of Houston bids, City of Dallas bids, state bids, sam.gov. On sam.gov, you can actually look at all the bids. That's the federal level, but you can look at all the bids that they have, right? There's a lot of bids out there, a lot. Because if you think about it, they need everything. Everything.
Mhm.
The thing is, will you give them that whatever it is that they need?
Yes.
And I'll say, just keep bidding. Once you first start, just keep bidding. I'm not even going. It's going to take. It might take you a while. It might.
Mhm.
For the most part, it's going to take you a while. But that's getting your feet wet. Even with a mentor, it's going to take you a while. Why?
Right.
Because you're just doing prices, right? It's just doing prices at the end.
I know earlier in the podcast you said you looked at a bid in Colorado, but you are in Texas. So you can bid for stuff outside of your state.
So that's where I found out that I was not in the right. And that's when I had I'm glad my mentor was there. He was like, well, what's your commercial use function? Like, what do you mean? He said, "What is your commercial use function? Go look that up and come back."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." Right?
Yeah.
So that's the difference between products and services, right? Services, you someone has to actually be there in order to get paid and to order to do that. Right. So for products, I don't have to be there. No one has to be there. My product has to be there. So that's why I always tell people, I mean, if you start off with services, that's great. That's full and dandy. But I want you to eat on both sides of the plate. Right.
Right.
Look for services. And I have clients. Hey, I don't do any products. Okay, that's fine. And I was like, are you sure? Like, yeah. Okay. You sure? Yeah. All right. So my first thing is I'll use you as an example.
Mm-hmm.
You say, Shamarcus, I don't do products. Okay, that's great. So what do you do? I'm a consultant. Okay. Do you use a computer? Yep. Okay. Do you use a printer? Yep. You use some pens? Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. You sure you don't do what do you mean? Okay, so there's bids for ink toners, there's bids for pens, there's bids for computers itself. There's you do you use a chair? Yeah, I use a chair. I'm not standing up. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Look into that. What I got one better for you. What? Do you use a desk? Yep. There's bids for
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay, my final question for you, Shamarcus, and I don't want to end this podcast. I'm gonna be honest. I do. I have had a great time with you on this podcast.
we always do. We
We
always do.
always do.
We
We
always do.
always do. You're right about that. My final question for you: who do you think would make a great guest on the podcast? But you have to help me get them on.
Oh, that's easy. Her name is Erica Perry.
Okay.
She's oh my god, she's a mental wellness coach. I want to say she gonna kick my butt, but she's actually a psychiatrist.
Okay.
Yeah, she has like her stuff, but she is big on helping student athletes and things of that nature. She's very very good. She's one of my real close friends. She is very good. And then her whole vibe is just that. Like she cool. I'll reach out to her. As a matter of fact, I reached out to her today after our podcast, and I'll tell her, hey, give this person a call.
Oh,
And
thank
yeah,
you.
but yeah, she's very very good. And then she's pushing a narrative of female athletes because I think she's focusing now on female athletes.
Hmm.
And she told me that I helped her on a couple things, but it's like I even let her know, like, you were a female athlete. Who can tell female athletes better than you?
That's true. You have
Like
those lived experiences.
I told her one time, it was so funny. I think she told people that I asked her this question. Um, I was like, Erica. She was like, what? I'm like, have you ever played on your menstrual cycle? She was like, yeah. I'm like, I can't tell nobody about that. I've never, ever, ever, will never have
Yeah.
that experience. I can't walk nobody through that. And that was like, boom. Just
Light
stuff
bulb
like that.
moment.
Yeah, like and she's dope. Like when I say she is good. And I don't even want to really say it, but she's very, very good. And I tell her that all of the time.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I'm excited to have her on the
oh yeah,
podcast. You done
oh yeah,
hyped her up. I'm
oh yeah, she
ready.
good. She good. Y'all gonna be laughing. She
Yes.
she good. She good.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Shamarcus, thank you so much for saying yes to me and saying yes to being on the podcast and educating me. I learned so much about government contracts because when we initially first had our conversation, you were asking me, do you do government contracts? I was like, I don't even really know what that is. So, so thank you so much for
No
coming on the
problem.
podcast and
No problem.
educating and being so open and transparent, even about, some of your business dealings.
Yes, yes. Anytime. I mean, the whole goal is to help as many people as possible, right? Even if you don't partake or come through me or talk to me or anything like that, I want you to still go and look because that's
Yeah,
going to get you on that path.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And
You're
to
so
my
welcome.
audience and my listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, listening, and learning. You can get Shamarcus podcast on YouTube podcast and Apple podcast, along with all of my other interviews. And always remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.